Hi guys, in today's video we're going to talk about tempo, how to read it in your programs, and I'll be giving you some examples on some of the most common exercises that you'll see in your program and how to incorporate tempo. So before we get started, I just want to discuss why tempo is important, why you need it in your program, and why it's important not to ignore it. So tempo simply means the time under tension, so slowing down an exercise and the speed at which you do an exercise. And most people just rush through their movements. They do squats really fast, they do push-ups really fast, they rush through movements, and their muscles actually don't get enough time under tension. And this is why they don't see results. So muscle doesn't grow unless you put tension on it, unless you really focus on each and every single exercise, incorporate mind to muscle connection, but also it helps to improve your technique, because if you go slower, you will be able to get much better each and every time you do that exercise. If you just use momentum, your muscles will not get those adaptations that you need in order to build muscle, aka hypertrophy. So that is why you need tempo, and that is why I put tempo in the workouts. And you mustn't skip over this. It's a very important part of your training, and it just takes a little bit of practice and understanding what each number represents and how to read the tempo in your program. Right, so let's look at how to read the numbers. So the tempo will always be 4 numbers, and they represent seconds. So the first number represents the eccentric portion of an exercise. So the eccentric portion means the lengthening of a muscle, the extension, or the you going down in a hole in a squat, or releasing of the weight, for example, in a bicep curl. The second number is the number after the eccentric. So it could be a pause in the hole of a squat. So on your way down, the part where you're on the bottom, that is the second number. So sometimes you'll have a pause. And then the third number is the concentric, the contraction. So that is the hardest part of the exercise. And for example, in a push-up, that's your way up. In a squat, that's also on the way up. In a row, for example, that's the actual first time you pull the weight towards you. In a chin-up or in a pull-up, that's you going up, pulling yourself up in a chin-up or a pull-up. And the last number is the number after the contraction or the concentric. So that is either the reset or what happens after you contract. So let's look at some examples. So if you have a squat with a 4-0-1-0 tempo, it would look something like this. 4 seconds on the way down, because that is your lowering phase or the eccentric. 0 seconds in the bottom, so you're not pausing, you're gonna spend no time in that hole. And then 1 second on the way up, so that is your contraction, the third number, and then 0 seconds until you start again. So let's look at how that looks like. So you're gonna squat down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So there's no pause at the bottom. It takes 4 seconds to go down in that eccentric, and it takes 1 second to come up in that concentric. For a push-up, for example, if you're gonna be doing a 3-0-1-0 push-up, that would look something like this. You're on the floor, you go 3, 2, 1, lowering down into your push-up, and you don't pause in the bottom, and it takes you 1 second to push yourself up in that concentric, and then you repeat. So for most split squat patterns, deadlift patterns, and push-up patterns, you always generally start at the first number. But when it comes to rowing, it's a different thing altogether. You start on the third number, because when you row or when you pull up, so most pulling movements, bicep curls, pull-ups, chin-ups, one arm rows, barbell rows, TRX rows, any of those pulling movements will always start on the contraction because that is where the exercise begins. So for example, with a bicep curl, you're starting with the contraction, the muscle shortening. So you always start on the third number, and this is where people get it really confused. They always start on the first number, no matter what exercise they're doing, without taking into consideration the eccentric and the concentric. So eccentric will always begin on the first number and concentric always on the third number. So I hope that makes sense. As long as you focus on one of the most important things, which is first number eccentric, third number concentric, you will always understand tempo. It will take some practice. You will need to kind of, practice it and do the movements, and this might take you some time in the beginning, but once you get it, you will get it, and you will always get it, and it will just become so second nature to you, and you will start seeing real results because you're putting your muscle under more tension and using that tempo training to your advantage. So I hope this video has helped you, and as always, if you have any questions, please reach out. All right, I'll see you in the next video.